So, hey everyone, welcome back to Pi Analytics, your go to place to learn Power BI and creating end to end Power BI projects. And in this tutorial, we will be walking through how to create a detailed, insightful Power BI report using an automotive company sales dataset. In this video, we will be breaking down the key insights, including the sales trends, customer demographics, regional performance, which are the top selling models, which are the best performing dealers in which region, which you will understand all as we will be walking through the dataset and then creating our report. And by the end of this tutorial, you will understand how to interpret and use this detailed, insightful report to drive data-driven decisions and how to create such more analytical and insightful, visualizingly appealing looking reports. Today, our report will consist of 2 pages and we will be walking through by creating each and every chart, importing our data set, transforming it, and then creating our report. So let's dive in and see what this data reveals. So as you can see, this is our data set. It is quite a long data set. This is the car ID, the date of the transaction, the customer, gender, annual income, the dealer name, the company name, which model has been sold, and then there are the details of the particular model, its color, at what price it has been sold, the dealer number, body style, phone number, and the dealer region. So let's go to Power BI first. So we'll create a new file. This is taking a while. So whenever you open Power BI, you will just get this screen, this visual, and it is still loading. It is taking a while. Yeah, like this. Okay, and let me show you how our report will look like by the end of this tutorial. So this is how our report will look like by the end of this tutorial. Isn't it look good? It has all the details, all the demographics, all the sales trends, insights, analytics, and we have added 2 slicers. We'll be adding 2 slicers and we will be creating it in a little bit of different style to make it more visually appealing. And this is a table that we have added, matrix, and we also have tooltip here. And this is the next page of our report. As I said, it is a 2-page report. We have added a scatter plot, all the KPI cards showing each and every detail. And see, just by one click on a slicer, our whole data set changed according to on whichever city you will click in the slicer. So let's start by creating our report. We'll go to a blank report and we will just directly import our data set. As it is a CSV file, so I'll select the CSV and then I will choose my data set. It takes a while to load the data set. Yeah, and here is our data. So you can first load the data set and then transform, or you can just transform the data set first and then it is loaded to the model. So first we will click on transform data. Although this data is more or less cleaned already, it didn't require any transformations as such. Just we will change the name of this column and we'll change this column name to city so it gets easy for us. And just one more transformation that we need is here in this column. Although we don't require this column as such, but for our data to transform completely and it to look good, we will just replace a value, which is this particular value, this symbol right here, which you can see. Just a second. First, I'll copy this symbol, and to remove this, I will replace it with replace values. I'll select this column again, I'll right click it, and then replace values. So by these replace values, whichever value you need to find and replace with, you can just directly enter and hit OK. So I'll paste the symbol I want to replace it with. And I don't want this symbol anywhere in this column, so I won't add anything here. I'll just leave it blank and I'll hit OK. And yeah, by that, we have just removed the symbol from all the data set. Yes, and rest our data is already clean and it doesn't require any transformations further. So we will just hit close and apply, and then our data set will get load into the model. It will take a minute to load. See, it is a quite long data set. It has more than 23,000 rows. So here is our data set, and we will go to the table view as we require a column which we will need to add. So we will just click on new column to create a new column, and the new column that we want to add is a year column, as we have a date column already here, but we just need the year, the particular year of transaction, so that we can add and make it as a slicer. So what we are gonna do is we will name our column year, which is equals to, I will use the format function of the Power BI DAX queries, and in that I will just add this date column of our data set. Okay, yeah, it is right here. I'll add this, and then for our particular format, I'll be needing just this. I'll close the bracket, I'll hit enter. Okay, there's some issue with this one. Yeah, now it's perfect. As you can check, with each and every date of transaction, we have its year just in this new column which we wanted. And now what we will do is, first we will create some measures that we need to build our report, and then we will just head on to building and creating our report. So first I'll create some measures. So for our analysis and seeing the trends and giving a complete and creating a complete analytical and insightful report, we need particular measures. As such, as you can see, we have a price column, so we need an average price, we need the maximum and what is the minimum price of transaction, how many males are there, how many females have purchased the card or have been the customer of this company. So we require such measures first. So we'll be creating new measure, and for the average price I'm gonna name it like this and just simply use the average function of the DAX, and I'll add price column from my data set. I'll close the bracket, hit enter, and I'll be having my measure right here. And just like that, we'll be creating few more measures. For example, I need the count of companies. How many different companies are there in this data set? So for that, I'm just gonna create a new measure, which I'm gonna name it company count, and I'll use the distinct count function as I need number of companies which are in this transaction. If I use the count function, then it will just count me the number of rows in the company column from our data set. But I want the distinct count because I want how many companies are there in this data set. So for that, I'll be using the distinct count function, and I will pass the company column as the parameter, and I'll close the bracket, hit enter, and I'll have my measure right here. See, similarly, we will create another measure for counting the number of transactions, basically the number of IDs which are there in this data set. And I'm gonna name that measure as total entries, which is nothing but just the count of the car ID. And I have a measure right here. Another measure that I need is counting how many different models are there in this whole data set. So for that, I'm gonna name it as model count. I'll use the distinct count function again, and I'll just pass the model column. I'll close the bracket, hit enter, and I'll be having my measure right here. Similarly, I need what is the maximum price, what is the minimum price, what is the maximum price. Use max function for that, pass the price column as the parameter, closing the bracket, hit enter, and you will have your measure. Similarly, I'll create another measure for the minimum price. Just like this, by using the minimum function. Close the bracket, hit enter, and you will have another measure called minimum price right here. Then I need, we have the company count, we have the model count. I need a dealer count also. So I'm creating a new measure for the dealer count specifically, and I'll be using again the distinct count function as I need how many different number of dealers are there in this whole data set. So use the distinct count function again, pass the dealer name as the input parameter, close the bracket, hit enter, and you will have your measure right here. Now I need another count which is about how many males and females are there. So for that, I'm gonna name my measure as male count. And for that, if I use the distinct count function, then there's no point by using the distinct count function and passing the gender column as the parameter, because it will return just 2, as there are only 2 different genders in our gender column. For this particular calculation, I'm using the calculate function first, and then inside that I'm gonna use the count function, and I'll pass the gender column as the parameter, and I'll mention that I need the count of the gender where the value is male. So for that, we'll use this, and the value should be equal to male only. I'll close the bracket, I'll hit enter, and I'll have my measure right here. Similarly, I'll first copy this DAX command. I'll create a new measure for the female count. We will name this measure as female count. We'll paste it here. We will change this value from male to female, and just by that we will have our female count measure. Okay, so now I think we have all the measures that we require. Okay, we need one more measure, which is for the total price, which will give us the total amount of all the transactions in this data set. So for that, I'll name it as total price, which is nothing but just the sum of the price column, and hit enter, and I'll have my total price measure right here. Okay, so I think we have all the measures that we require here, and yeah, we have all the measures that we need for creating our report. Now we will head on to just creating our report, and we'll see how make it visually more appealing, and how we will create each and every chart. We will add and analyze which chart we need to add. We will create the tooltip, and we will link that tooltip. So without wasting time, we will just head on to creating our report. So first, what I'll be doing is I'll be adding a title to our report, which is, I'll add a simple title as car sales report. You can add a title according to your need, or you can add a different title to it. I'll increase the font size. I'll change the color to white. I'll increase the font size to 20. I'll make it bold. And now what I'll be doing is I will change the background color for our title, and I already have the hex code of the title, which is this. Okay, I just want to align this title in the center like that, and I'll just adjust our title so that it looks good. Okay, yeah, perfect. Yeah, now it looks good. So first, I forgot to save it. So first we'll save our report so we don't lose our progress. I'm gonna name it as car sales report. Always remember to save it, because if by chance you close your program or application, or your system gets shut or something like that, sometimes you lose all your progress, and then you will need to start from scratch all over again. So always remember to save your progress. I'll save it first. Okay, it is saved now. And I'll first also change the canvas settings, and I don't want this 16:9 canvas. I want change in the size, which is around 795 pixels, and I need around 1390 pixels here. Yeah, this is the dimension that I need. Okay, so now we'll continue our report and we'll start adding the slices and our cards. Before that, I need to change the canvas settings, just the width of it to 1290. Yes. And now I will first add a card, and I want the total number of cars sold, which is nothing but the total entries here. Yeah, right, like good. And I'll just remove this one. Okay, so this is our card. We'll just format it. I will change the name for this particular visual. You can just click on this and you can just find rename for this visual, and you can just change the name of the measure for this particular card, and I want it to be written as cars sold. Hit enter and see, it got changed. Now we will just format it a little bit. For the background color, I have a color with me which hex code is this. Yeah, right. And I'm gonna give it a border and also a shadow. So for the border, I'll be keeping it as a 1 pixel black color border with 4 pixels of rounded corners and a shadow which is offset on outside, and the position of the shadow I'm gonna keep is bottom right. So this is how our card is gonna look like. I'm gonna make the call out category label to bold and black. Yes, and the values also to the same font. I think I should increase its size a little bit. Yes, perfect. So that's how our card will look like, and we will add 4 or 5 cards just like this one. So I'll just select it, I'll copy, and I'll make few copies of this card. And for the second one, I'm gonna keep it as the total price, which is nothing but the total revenue. So I'm gonna rename it to the total revenue. For the third one, I'm gonna keep it as the count of the companies, which is our company count measure, and I'm gonna rename it this to right here as companies. So it shows how many total number of different companies are there in our data set. Hit enter and it will get renamed. For this one card, I'm gonna keep it to the number of dealers, which is nothing but our dealer count measure. And click on this arrow, you will find this option for rename, and I'll put it as dealers. And I need one more card, which will be the total number of models, total number of different models present in our data set. which is nothing again but our model count measure, and I'll rename this one also as models. Yes, now just we need to arrange these cards just like one here. First I'm gonna make sure that the size of all the cards are same. Yeah, okay, I can change the size a little bit, which is this. Okay, I think okay, yes. Now these two cards are just this exactly similar size. Similarly, we need to arrange the rest of the three cards also. So that's how you create and add cards. You just create one card and you just copy paste, and basically you need to keep in mind that what are the different aspects or different values. Basically it depends on the data set. For some data sets you can add a card which shows the average price or the total profit or something like that. So you need to find and analyze that which values and how you can create a new measure and display them in a new card in your report, which makes your report more analytical and helps make more accurate data driven decisions. So this is how our cards look like. They're all similar. I need to make sure that they are similar. They are not actually similar. Right now I need to make sure that they are. Okay. Yes. Now it looks good and appealing. I think we can just place it a little bit upside right here. Yeah. Yeah. I think now it looks better. We'll save our progress. It will take a minute. Yes, it is saved now. And now we will add a slicer to our report, which will be the year slicer. So this is the reason why I added a new column called year, to make sure that I can easily add it to a slicer. So I'll just drag and drop it right here, and I will change the slicer settings that I don't want it to be look like this. I want it to be a drop down menu. So I'll just go to slicer settings and I'll change it to a drop down menu. And for this report, to make it more, to look even more appealing visually, I had thought that for all the charts and for all the slices, I'll remove the background, and instead of the background I'll add a different shape, like equal to the size of the chart or the slicer, and I'll place the slicer or the chart on that particular shape. I'll show you how I'm thinking to create that. So first of all, let me format this slicer a little bit. So for that I will be giving it a border which is, yes, like this. I'll remove the background and I will change the value settings. Change the font of the header similar to the report. I think I should increase the size a little bit. Yes. And for the value part, I think it looks good. Yeah, better now. Now I will, okay, but first let me just make the borders a little bit more round corners. 4 pixel I think is good. Yeah, perfect. And you won't notice, but there is no background of this slicer as I have turned the background off. As you can see that there is no background of the slicer. So what I'll do is instead I'll add a shape. You can go to the insert option and you can go to shapes, select this rectangle, and what I'll do is I'll just add a rectangle over here. Like I'll just adjust the cards first and then I'll show you what I'm thinking and how I can create the report more appealing by this method. It is just your creativity. You can just play with it and you can just create your report and you can just change the color scheme, how a chart should look like, what should be the color of the slices, what should be the color of the border, you want a shadow or not. That's all up to you. You can just play with it and it's your creativity how you want your report to look like. So here I'm just gonna add shape, yeah, right about this size. First I'll change the color to white and I don't want a border, instead I want a shadow. Yes, exactly like this one. Okay, I don't want a shadow through this option, but I'll add the shadow instead through the general settings, which is going into effects, and then I'll add a shadow. Yeah, this shadow looks more appealing. Yes, perfect. Now what I'm going to do is I'll just place it right over here. I just need to increase the width of this a little bit more. Yeah, I think this is perfect. Perfect. Now as you can see, I have placed my slicer over here, but it is not uh, visible to us. So what happened is the shape is above our slicer, but what we want is the slicer to be present above the shape. So what we will do is we'll select the shape, we'll go to format, we'll click here send backward option, and you can click on send backward or send to back. You should click send to back as we will add more slicer, and now you can see that our slicer is visible. Now when you will select the shape will get selected and then you can't see the slicer, but when you will click anywhere else and when you will look at the report, you can easily see the slicer. So imagine like we create all the charts with these shapes inserted in their background with their particular backgrounds first getting removed, and then we'll place all the charts on these shapes which won't have a boundary but a shadow, and it will look beautiful. For the another slicer, I'm gonna add this new slicer, and I want the city names to be present in this slicer. So for that, I'm just gonna select and drag the cities over here, and I will just
format this one also. Okay, and I think this looks good, and I want it to be a single column. I want the maximum possible cities here. I don't want the slicer, so that we need to just scroll down and then select our city, just like this. If I reduce this max button shown to 6, then we get a scroller over here. We need to scroll and then we can select if I want to select this particular city. So I don't want that, so I'll just increase it to 7, and we'll have all the cities right over here. And for the values, I'm gonna make sure that the font is similar as our font. It aligns in the center. And what else we can do is shape. I want to be a rounded rectangle. Yeah, just like this one. Rounded corners, we reduce it to 18 is good. Yes, 18 is good.
And for some more formatting, you can just look and search for whatever thing you want to format, or whichever way you want to edit your slicer or charts or anything else. You can just search it over right here also, or you can find it manually also. I'll remove the title because it is clearly evident that these are the city names. Okay, I think this is good. For the effects part, I am gonna put a visual border to it. No, I'm not. Okay, I'm gonna remove the background first. Yes, I want it to look exactly like this one. See, I just by mistake I clicked on this particular city and the data changed completely. So that's what works. That's how a slicer works. So I'll unselect it and I am gonna place it right here. I can increase the width of it a little bit. Okay, the shape got selected. I need to just make sure that this looks good. Yeah, I think this looks good now. I will reduce the size of this particular slicer. Yeah, I think it looks good. Okay, to make sure the report is completely view according to the page, you can go to the view option and page view, and then you can click fit to page. We'll save our progress, and now I think it looks beautiful. So similarly, we will create our charts and we will make sure the theme is this only, that we will remove the background and we will place the charts on top of a shape like this one. So I'm gonna select this shape first and I'm gonna just copy paste it. So copy and paste. Okay, 3 is enough for now. And first, for the first chart, which will be about right about this size, this is for the second chart, which will be placed right here, and I'll adjust the size. This is for our third chart, which will be coming right here. Okay. So what I can do is, now we will be going to create our first chart, which is a pie chart that will show the customer demographics, which is focused on the customer demographics, that what is the annual income of a customer based on the gender specific. As what I'm trying to say is, we'll create a pie chart whose value will be the annual income of the customer, and the legend would be the gender, because by this we can analyze that which gender has more or how much annual income.
So we will add the annual income column to the value
Section, and in the legend I'm going to add gender. Okay, for the editing part, we will remove the background. Title would be
annual income by gender. Make sure the font of all the charts, the title of all the charts having the same font, just like this one. And for the values and the legends, so basically you can edit it according to yourself. Make sure that the font and
the colors are similar, because otherwise it won't look good.
so I'm gonna just edit it. I think this is good. For the legend part also, I need to change the color to black and make sure it is also semi bold font. Yes, I think it looks good now. Now as I have removed the background of it, as you can clearly see, now I'll place this on top of this shape, just like this. Yes, now it is exactly on top of that. Okay, I'm gonna select it again and I just reduce the size of the detail labels by 1 point. Yeah, it looks perfect now. So that's how
We'll create a chart. Now just by following this theme, you can just clearly see that it looks much beautiful than a normal report, just by this one creativity step that we have added, and we'll follow that throughout our report. So our next chart is going to be a donut chart, which will show us that which body style generated how much revenue. So it gives an analysis that which is the most preferred body style overall across the whole data set. So we'll add a donut chart, and we want it to have the total price or the total revenue in the values, and it should be according to the body style. So we'll add body style in the legend. And for the formatting, I'm just gonna go to page 1 and then select this pie chart, click on format painter, and I'll paste the formatting over here. I'll place it on top of the shape that we have inserted. Yes, exactly. Now it is perfectly placed, and I'll change the title first. which is the total revenue in dollars by body style. And for the slices, I'll change the color as it is not in contrast at all. So I'll make sure that all the slices have the colors in a shade of blue so that it looks good. So you can have one like this, the other one we can have as this, and for this one we can have it as, okay, this is similar to hatchback, so we can have a shade somewhat like this. Okay, now it looks better. So that's how we have created our donut chart. We'll save our progress first, and then here, over here, we are going to create a scatter plot, which is right here, scatter chart. Now this chart will give us the analysis, or it will show us that which particular model has what average price and how much revenue it has generated. So that is the average price of a model and the revenue generated by that particular model in every city, sold by every dealer. So for that we need average price on the x-axis and the revenue, which is the total price, on the y-axis part, and the values would be nothing but our models. Yes, exactly like this. And we will place it. Okay, first let's format it. So for this formatting, I'm gonna go on this page and I'll select this chart, click on format painter, and I'll paste the formatting over there. Just like this. Now I'll place it and adjust the size according to the shape that we have inserted for this. Perfect. Now I'm going to change the name of the titles on the x-axis as the average price, and for this one it would be the revenue on the y-axis, which is the revenue in dollars. So this particular model, as this model has a high average price but it has a higher revenue, so for the color gradient, what I'm going to do is I'm going to add conditional formatting. Instead of having a same color for each and every scatter dot across this chart, I'm going to have a conditional formatting. Of around this color. Yes, it looks good, and it will be according to not the average price, but it will be according to, okay, we can just add this conditional formatting in the color according to the average price or according to the revenue, which is the total price, or we can add it according to any other specific attribute also. But here what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna add it according to the average price itself, and then I'm gonna hit OK. Yes, and then we have our scatter plot right here. So this has the maximum average price and a decent enough revenue. So that's how we have created our scatter plot. And for the last chart, which would be again stacked column chart, which will show us that which company has been generating the maximum revenue, or which company has generated how much revenue. So for this, we're going to simply add the total price on the y-axis and the company name on the x-axis. And we don't need all the companies because there are a lot of companies and it doesn't look good. So we'll add a filter to the company name, which will be a top end filter again. And this time I need just the top 5 companies, and it should be according to the total revenue generated by each company. So we'll hit apply, and here we have the top 5 companies according to the revenue. And for the formatting, we will go to the first page, we will select this chart, we'll select format painter, and we'll paste the formatting right here. Perfect. Now we align the size according to the shape. Perfect. So that's how we have created and finished our second page of our report. But to add an even better analysis and to give even better analysis, we will be adding tooltips to our report. So we will be adding 2 tooltips. One would be for this chart and one would be for this chart, as this chart shows us which are the top 5 dealers according to the revenue. But on hovering on each and every dealer, I want to see that this particular dealer sold which companies, which are the top 10 companies according to the revenue sold by this particular dealer, or this particular dealer right here, or this particular dealer. So for that, we will be adding a tooltip. First, I noticed the title isn't correct, so I'm gonna change the title of this chart to the top 5 dealers by revenue. Perfect. Similarly, we need to change the title for this chart to the top 5. Okay, we have mistakenly added customer name instead of the company name, so we need to change it first to the company name. Okay, we'll first apply the filter again to the company, which will be a top end filter. Again, we need the top 5 companies. Top 5 companies according to the revenue generated by them, which is the total price, and we'll hit apply. Perfect. Now we'll change the title to the top 5 companies. Top 5 companies by revenue. And we'll also rename this to revenue instead of total price. and we will save our progress first. Okay, perfect. Now I want this company's name to not look like this, so either we need to reduce the size or we need to change the size of our plots. So I'm gonna change the size a little bit, which is this. Perfect. I think now it looks better. And for the data labels, I'll make sure that they are bold enough. Okay, this looks okay. Now I think it looks good. We'll save it again. And now what we'll be doing is adding the tooltip. So first we need to create a tooltip which we'll be creating on another page, and we'll change, and we go to canvas settings and we change the size of the page to a tooltip. Then what we're going to do is we're going to add a stacked bar chart which will be giving us the top 10 companies by revenue, and this tooltip we will be linking that to the top 5 dealers chart that we have created on the first page of our report. So for this chart I need the company again on the y-axis and the revenue, which is the total price, on the x-axis. As you can see, it gives us details of all the companies and the revenue generated by them, but we don't need all the companies. As for a tooltip, it is not a good practice that you have a scroller. It is instead you get all the details in just one single visual instead of scrolling like this. So for that we will add a filter, and we will be having a filter for top 10, let's say first top 10 companies according to the revenue, and we'll hit apply. It isn't looking good, so we will be adding top 5 companies instead of top 10. Yeah, now it looks good. Okay, now we will create another tooltip just like this one, which will give us the top 10 models according to the revenue, which we will be linking to the top 5 companies according to the revenue chart on the second page of our report. So first we will change the canvas settings to tooltip, and again we will be adding a stacked bar chart, but this time instead of company we need model on the y-axis, and again the revenue, which is the total price, on the x-axis. We'll apply the filter again this time, but this time it will be top 10 models according to the revenue. And it will be sorted according to the total price or the revenue generated by these models. So we'll hit apply. Okay, so here are the top 10 models according to the revenue, but on a single visual we can just only see the top 7 models, so we are gonna just change it to top 7 instead of top 10. This will be top 7 models by revenue instead of top 10. And for the formatting part, I'm just gonna go on the first page. I'll select this chart, I'll select the format painter, and I'll paste the formatting over here. Perfect. For the title, I will change the title to the top 7 model, only the top 7 model, because it will be clearly evident as we will link this to a particular chart. So the top 7 model title is enough. And for the title on the axis, we will change, or we will rename it revenue in dollars. For the color part, I need a conditional formatting in the color as we did earlier. So I'm gonna go on the bars color, I'm gonna add conditional formatting, not the first model but according to the total price. We want a gradient and we'll hit OK. Perfect. But as we can see that again we're getting a scroller, so we don't need this legend, or so we'll just turn off the legend. And that's how we have created our tooltip. And for this tooltip over here, I'll copy the formatting from this one and then paste it over there. So I'll select this, hit format painter and paste the formatting right here. And I just need to change the name of the title, and this one I'll rename it to revenue again, which is in dollars. And I will change the title to the top 5 companies. Yeah, we'll save our progress. Now it's just one step before coming to an end, that is to link these tooltips to their respective charts. So we're going to link this particular tooltip to this chart on the first page. So we'll simply select this chart, we'll go to general settings, we'll go to tooltip, and we need to make sure that report page option is selected, and in page I'll select page number 3, and that's it. Now when you will hover on it, you can see the top 5 companies according to the revenue sold by this particular dealer named Rabun Used Car Sales. And you will hover on another, let's say this race car help. So these are the top 5 companies sold by this particular dealer according to the revenue. And similarly, we are going to link our second tooltip to this chart over here. So we are going to select this chart, go to tooltips in the general settings, make sure the report page is selected, and you can simply just select whichever page you need to link as a tooltip, and it's done. So on hovering on any particular company, so this will show that Chevrolet has generated the highest revenue, and the top 7 models according to the revenue sold by Chevrolet are right here, and you can easily analyze it and see the details of it just by hovering over it. So that's how tooltips work, and you need to add tooltips wherever you can, because it gives an edge and it gives a more detailed analysis to your report. And that's how we have created and completed our report. So this is our 2-page report, which is completely detailed and insightful, analytical. We have seen a different style of editing and formatting in this one, and That's how you create a detailed analyzed report. So that's it for this particular video. I hope you liked this one and you have learned from this particular video how to create a detailed and insightful, visually appealing report. And I hope you guys liked it. So thank you for watching this video.